to the Paladins Pro Circuit Community Broadcast. Fawn the Legend and Kresnik here once again as we head right from Europe into the Brazilian region. And while Kresnik's closet door is open, we still have more games for you to watch while we are in the Brazilian region.
Yeah, we got Parallax versus Ignite, which, I mean, Ignite's put up fights against pretty much every team they've played against most of the time. I feel like they've never really been blown out after coming in from those relegations and proving that at least they belong in these regional tournaments that we're going to be having soon afterwards. It's like accidentally type in Control Nation instead of Parallax for some reason. I'm still in yesterday apparently, but Ignite, Parallax, Ignite. I love how they bring out some unique picks, but we haven't really seen a ton from them in this meta, I would say. So that's going to be, I think, we're going to have to see how they've adapted to it. If this, these Makoas coming back in, these flankers are things that maybe Ignite can really thrive with.
Yeah. I mean, this is a region that we've seen these sort of, I guess I can call them weirder picks. I mean, they were picking Barrick back before people were even considering Barrick to be picked in Phase 2,
yeah.
Right? I mean, it was the point tank that they always wanted. I mean, we've seen the Koga be brought out here more consistently, even without the Torvald. We've seen the Leon a lot. I mean, this is definitely a region for creativity, and I'm excited to see how the first seed Parallax are going to sort of manipulate their draft against their opponents.
Yeah, we'll see how they decide to do it. We'll find out what the first map is once we get past the map bans. Ignite Gaming banned Jaguar Falls and Shattered Desert, and Parallax banned Warder's Gate and Fish Market. So only one standard one, I guess, taken out in that, and Warder's Gate and Fish are pretty much what we expect. And actually, we're going to start somewhere a little off the beaten path. We're going to Frog Isle to begin this set. Ignite Gaming will be first pick here, and we'll see how they target Parallax, if anything changes from their bans in previous weeks. But just from looking at the first one, it seems like we're staying about what we expect.
Yeah, of course you want to get rid of one of the many pocket picks, or I should say 3 pocket picks that you could lock in this game at this point in time. Genos is going to be taken out of the fray. Zen can be said much more the same for him. A very, very strong DPS, counters out a lot of dive because of Guillotine, a hard talent to play into. So take him out of the mix. Same thing can be said for the Eevee. That's what Parallax's last pick, or last ban, I should say. I could only imagine it's the Corvus, unless they want Ignite to get that, but they don't care. They're actually just going to give them the Corvus if they want to lock it in, but maybe the DPS is just too much for them. I'm surprised they don't actually ban ROM here either. We talked about it in EU. Not having that Atlas puts a huge damper on dealing with ROM, even though you still have counters. Why leave the ROM open here?
You can deal with him a little bit better on Frog. I mean, sometimes you can still get, Cassie to burn him. You can still have even Bomb King, I guess, if you want to run Chain Reaction and mess him up that way. But there's also a lot of CC you can still run. Khan on this map is great. He can't really ignore you, so you can have him play on that edge and kind of farm your overpower a little bit. It can work, I think, pretty well here. Parallax locking in the Ashe first. They're actually avoiding that ROM, instead going with a different aggressive off-tank, and they're actually going to pick up Kinessa to back them up as well. People in chat are now telling me to close the door. I'm not getting up. I'm not getting up. I have to type in this draft. I can't get up to do it, or else everything grinds to a halt.
Well, you have Fawn's drawer, and then you have Kresnik's door.
No!
Right? I guess that's I guess that's what it is now. I mean, you have my drawer that you can't see on camera anymore. Now you have your door that you need to end up closing. Corvus, Fernando, Maeve, and then you have Ashe and Kinessa on the other side here. You have sort of those long angles that you can play. Understandable. But do you feel like it's necessary to draft the Strix here? Do you feel like that will be stronger than perhaps a Grover? Because I think the Grover is multi-purposeful here, right? I mean, the Cripple Axe, the Deep Root stops a lot of them on the other side, and it can put a damper on Kinessa if he hits the right angle.
You know what it could be?
Okay.
Could be Dredge. I'll tell you right now, I see the next 2 picks. It's not Dredge. But I wish it was, because I actually kind of like it on Frog Isle into snipers if you can play it right. Because if you know the angles, of course. If you can play the angles, you can spam over the walls, you can connect onto them, you can heal off the harpoon and potentially out-snipe. And Dredge also, right now, I pulled up the stats, 100% win rate in Brazil. It's only been played twice, but it hasn't lost yet. I'm pretty sure it's just been a Spexy on Ice Mines. And how do you beat a Spexy Dredge on Ice Mines? Spoiler, You don't.
You
don't
don't.
beat it. Makoa and
Exactly.
Strix will be the last pickups for Ignite Gaming, and they're looking like they're going to play it slow. This looks like a half-shell Aegis Nando poke fest where they're just relying on whoever ends up piloting this Strix to win the game for them.
Yeah, it seems like they will go for the sniper here. And you have the Corvus. Obviously, you had one healer, so Grover, maybe not so much, but they feel like the Strix can sort of stop that Canessa, as Androxus is the last pick on the side of Parallax Gaming. This is very interesting drafts to see this. I'm more so concerned for Ignite Gaming going up against Parallax's draft right now because you have such a heavy dive composition against a couple of, like, well, not a couple, but only one backliner, but I don't think the Maeve is going to hit as hard when she has to play into both Andro and Canessa. Those are still both hit scans. You still can't sleep on them. And her verticality doesn't really mean much, especially since they can fight back against verticality.
So, a little surprise.
Okay,
I did not know that apparently Mitao wasn't here game 1.
Okay.
Do you want to take a wild guess as to who is filling in for Mitao in game 1?
That
Well,
could be.
It's Freeze God. He's playing.
Okay.
FRC is playing. I just was not expecting that, but he is here and apparently ready to frag.
It seems like it's doing good for him. I'm glad to see FRZ return here. I mean, it has been a while since we've seen FRZ sort of return to the Paladin scene. We wish him all the best, obviously, in his future, in his endeavors from the Paladin scene. But this is great. I mean, I do genuinely love to see this being brought out here, to see him
Agreed.
sort of return to form.
You know, I was wondering why Freeze was in chat earlier, and I think this explains it. I didn't quite realize, but Freeze is here and apparently ready to frag. Honestly, surprised he's not on Kin. I mean, think about what he's playing. It'll just be like holding the op and going nuts on Frog watching those sight lines as he drops his pog in chat here. But I think you were right about the hit scan. I feel like this Maeve might struggle into the Nessa and the Andro. It's just really going to be hard to find that angle. It's just going to be kind of a lot of indirect poke. It feels like just trying to swing those daggers over walls and maybe, maybe, finding someone on the other side.
Let's go!
But let's get into the game and let's see how this is going to be played out between both of these teams. Of course, we can speculate all we like, but it's a different game where we're talking about it in motion. As we see that they're playing by Danger, Ash and Androxus are both here on the sides. They're fighting back against Maeve right now as they're trying to see what they can do. FRZ wins the trade. So he manages to make this work for him. First blood already in the back line as he takes care of the Strix. This is what I was concerned about. If you're playing on Ignite Gaming side, it's just too much to deal with sometimes. It's hard. And did he hook off the side? I don't know. Oh my goodness, there it is. I actually was like, wait a minute. I was like, that's not the height at which you would be if someone pulled you over to that side. But I mean, hey, if it works, it works.
We'll see this as they try to get some ground, but hard to push into this Strix. The Strix is putting on a lot onto them, making it really difficult to peek as Freeze kind of demands a lot of heals here on the side after that early poke comes in. But look at this split. They're just ignoring this Makoa. I kind of actually love this play. They surround that Maeve, get her immediately, and now they have this Danger held down, and these tanks are left alone.
He's firing into the Makoa, and he can't make it out. And that means that, of course, it's curtains for him, as now the remaining a couple of other members on the side of Parallax Gaming have already made their way into the back line here, forcing a lot of aggression into the spawn doors of Ignite Gaming. It's hard for them to push out at all, but they're going to give them some space. Ash and Androxus are going to take a different advantage approach. They use the Midnight to at least stop them from doing much of anything. As Ash backs up, puts down the shield, has to find some sort of way out. The beautiful hook as well as he's flying back into going to get taken out of the pool here. As you have some time to work with. It seems like Ron's going to have to back out. He got forced out. He was too low. Too many angles where he was getting shot from. It's just hard to deal with that. The hook goes through. And then he did another one. Come on, man. You can't be serious. Oh, he's stuck. Oh, he's vibing.
I'm sure there's something fun happening in the back line, but we're just going to keep an eye on him. Oh, there he goes! Okay, Kron's in the sky, ready to play, and apparently he's here to help them fight as he runs right through, going right into the sky, and apparently coming right back in to help.
Well, he's back here Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Is it a plane? No, it's Rom coming in from the top rope with the people's elbow. He drops down and sprints right into the opposition's backline. He finds some good damage onto Strix immediately as Makoa has to back off. Can't deal with the pressure being applied by that Gatling gun, and Ash drops a little shield for him. So here you go. And it allows him to continually hold that angle for as long as nobody pushes him. Meanwhile, Makoa goes down with the Midnight to counteract the engage that is being brought by Dintic on the side here. FRZ is going to get killed as well. Now the cart has been considerably rolling. They've been losing members, but the cart really hasn't stopped, surprisingly enough.
Outlander barely surviving thanks to his illusion healing, and I think the Maeve should make good use of it, but Outlander actually gets out. Just warps right away. Maeve can't chase it down immediately, and Kinessa knocked low, but doesn't have to really worry about it. Dintic, unfortunately, does not have the same good graces that Kronz has, getting raptured back up to the sky to re-enter the fight. Gets pulled right down instead. Hopefully he maybe say a Hail Mary or something and fix that one, but Ignite holding decently right now with I think no way really for them to get in yet until they have both tanks, but Kronz is just waiting and looks like it's time to go.
15 seconds remaining.
He wants to use this right now, especially as he has Cataclysm. He wants to be in a good enough position for that to matter, and that's why I brought it up. There it is. He puts the foot down in a very literal sense. They get the kill off the back of it. As the Headhunter gets used, everyone else, of course, hides. They don't want to be on the receiving end of that Kinessa damage. They have the overtime available to Parallax Gaming right now. Is I have to find some sort of way to force them off of it. As really, as Spexy is looking at so many different angles, just flicking back and forth. Of course, moving from the Fernando, seeing who might actually peek, trying to stop the Strix from having an easier time from shooting. Seems like everyone's sort of just stalled out for right now. There's nothing too concrete yet as Fernando gets brought down pretty low. As soon as the shield drops, when it's broken, he gets killed, and they trade out both frontliners.
And look, they can't get much more out of it. They spend the Accursed Arm, but this half shell just blocking long enough for them to stall it out. But again, hit scan does not lose to Maeve if the shots are connecting, and they do, and Freeze finds a second one as well.
Okay, nice double kill already available for Androps as they use the Ancient Rage. They're swinging back and forth, seeing what they can find here. As they have the Assert Dominance all the way up and brings it right back down thanks to the Immortal. It's going to be enough to keep them alive. Entropic Breach directly on the objective, so that way it's harder for them to stand there. But even still, I think really to be concerned with, if anything, they use the Illusory Rip to keep them alive. This is what I'd be concerned about if I was on the side of Ignite Gaming. This healing from Ying might be a little bit too much. A beautiful Juggernaut as well. Look at the kills. It all floods right on into the pockets and onto the scoreboard for Parallax Gaming, making this a 2-0 on Frog Isle.
I mean, that was one of the quickest. That fight, both teams just hanging on by a thread constantly in that fight, and then one little crack in the dam, and it all floods through, with Parallax being the ones to break that and continue their good look so far on this map. And I gotta say, I want to make a quick aside. Shout out to the new player on Ignite. Not sure if it's a name change or a new player, but Abizu, I'm assuming is how we say that. He's been playing pretty well in this Makoa. I think he's getting a lot of solid hooks, and he in general has his half shells in good spots. He's been actually buying a lot of space for his team, so good looks to Ignite for shifting the roster, getting a player that looks fairly comfortable with it.
Seems like they're taking the same angles that they were before. Of course, they can't concede danger here, and who's that? He moves in. Maeve actually moves in on the side, manages to get damage onto the Androxus. I couldn't see for a quick second who that was, but he does make it back. Okay, I was about to say, I'm like, you can't be doing the same thing every time. It's okay. Oh my goodness! Look at where Rom is in the back. He's all the way back there. My attention was so far on the point by danger that I wasn't even considering the fact that Kronz had made it all the way into the back and is finding plenty of kills. He is holding it down for his team right now, and of course can find the dismounts to boot. If anything, so hard for them to make it back to the objective, especially when Kronz is right here. He's running right on through the team.
Yeah, and this Ron, they really don't have a great way to stop him. It's kind of just Makoa, really, and there goes the hook, but Kronz, I'm sure, has another run set up as Deja Vu just can't make it past. Freeze helping them clean up this kill, even if Outlander will take it himself. And look at Kronz, he's just having a grand old time here in the back line with no way to be stopped.
Boobies can't really hold that angle when you have a Gatling gun being unleashed into your side there, so of course he's going to back up and away from the opposing team. Parallax Gaming are able to hold their ground here. He moves right on through, runs into the back line once again. Kronz is there to, of course, cause a disturbance of the peace. as he hasn't left for so long. Half shell gets brought down immediately, but a seismic crash to see if they can make things work for him. Fernando's shield is up, so of course they're not going to get stunned, but even still, it makes it harder for him. The fireball is going to be used. Of course, he's using that flamethrower as well to try and pump damage into FRZ, and they managed to find the kill. Headhunter hip fires into Penny and brings him pretty low. He's trying to help out his Spexy, and they actually do. When they manage to get the kill, they do, but they trade out his Spexy for it as well. They have the illusory rift, but of course, she's not going to use that quite yet. As Outlander, he's going to go down. As you have advantage. Of course, Ignite Gaming, that didn't look so good at first, now seems to be at least going well for him.
Deja Vu also turning this around, I think. Great dagger aim in general, catching it on the ROM while he's running and finding everything, even on the Ying, dodging between illusions. Good looks from him here so far, and we'll see if they can maintain this aggressive hold. Looks like they don't want to. They're pulling back, but they have to be careful fighting these long sight lines. Spexy is back and in position, and oh, unfortunate here. The Entropic Breach gets forced, and he goes right into the Duck Hunt sight line of Spexy, just waiting for him.
And he finds the kill too. That's going to put a damper on the sustainability of Ignite Gaming. They don't have their healer for the 4 seconds. That means, of course, Parallax are going to do what they've been doing and be this aggressive in the back line. Savizur goes down. As now Dentic has taken control of their spawn. So the rest of Parallax, honestly, I mean, they're all back here chilling in the opposing enemy spawn. And Parallax, they just roll that one right in.
I mean, that was a 4-0, but it didn't really feel like a 4-0. It kind of felt like it could have been back and forth. There was a lot of fights that were, again, really just hanging on by a thread that Parallax were kind of able to wrestle away from them. It seemed as the fights went on a little bit longer, but so good from Ignite, but obviously better from Parallax, whose draft so aggressive, and they made it work. They were able to sync up properly on these dives, even without Mitao, even with FRZ shifting the new talent. Gotta say, I know Mitao, incredible player, but FRZ and Spexy on the same team, kind of unfair.
Right.
kind of ridiculous, actually, to see together, even if Mitao and Spexy have been also a very dominant DPS duo here in Brazil so far.
Yeah, the Kness is really, really strong in the right hands. I believe that's why we've seen the Knessa be banned out so much as opposed to the Strix. Sure, Strix does 1800 per headshot, and of course, the Spexy did less damage than him because of the harder time Parallax had. They don't really have that many shields. Those shields get broken easily, and of course, that means Kubi's has a field day with farming damage onto those frontliners. But even still, we see Knessa banned a lot more than Strix. It's that damage. It's hard to fight in steady aim. The consistency that she has, of course, it's not as consistent as Strix. You're not getting 1800 every single shot, but that steady aim's going to apply regardless at some point in the game, whether you're missing all the shots or you're hitting them. It's something that you have to keep in mind coming into the fight here, and that's why we've seen that Knessa be taken out of the pool as opposed to some of the other, as opposed to Strix like he was last year. But I mean, Outlander, the Ying, did so well. I mean, they only died twice. They held a lot of good positions as well. I mean, I think Parallax just, like you said, they had to wrestle it away from Ignite a lot of the time, because I agree, didn't quite feel like a 4-0. Felt like they were fighting their hearts out on the side of Ignite as well. And hopefully they can bring that into the next game.
Just to make a comment, when I say doesn't feel like a 4-0, to me that doesn't mean that was a 4-3. It means like it felt like a 4-1.
Right.
Like it felt
yes,
Parallax were in control a lot of the time, but there was a fight. It felt like there could have been a defense, especially near that very end, had things just gone a little bit differently for Ignite Gaming, and they're definitely hoping it goes differently for them on map number 2. Parallax get the choice now, and will be sliding right into, when the button works, Ice Mines is going to be Parallax's choice here. So makes sense if they want to go to a map where blasters can be powerful. They are kind of, as a team in general, are kind of boosting the win rate of blasters tremendously in their region. Just to point out, I have the stats in front of me here. Top win rate champion, I slapped my microphone. Pointing to my screen, which none of you can see. Top 4 win rate champions in Brazil right now, in order: Dredge, Eevee, Willow, Bomb King. There's a common theme there, and I think there's a common player there as well, and we all know who that is, and the team that's making these picks all the time. With that, it just, those 4 champions skyrocketing because of that. But Xin will be the target for Parallax instead. They want their tanks to maybe get away with it a little bit more. They want that, I think, guillotine just out of the picture.
Xin is going to be locked in, or at least I should say, banned outside of Parallax Gaming. Of course, that makes plenty of sense. A Bomb King Yeah. Ignite Gaming are going to get rid of that one. It's a very powerful blaster, especially on ice mines. We've seen King Bombs that win a lot, and we've seen blasters be the sole reason why people win on this map. So
Yeah.
I can understand getting rid of that Bomb King. Zen, Torvald, Bomb King, Genos, all out of the pool, but that leaves Corvus open. Parallax can lock in this Corvus first if they feel it is necessary.
But they
Nope,
don't.
it's going to be Makoa.
They're going to go
Okay.
Makoa instead. I mean, half shell on this map. I always talked about, now, when the first time I was ever on the desk, I felt like I had some epiphany. I'm like, guys, Ice Mines is all about circles. That's all it is. Damage circles, shielding circles, it's all good. But if we're going back to that, Makoa has a big circle that you need to break. But if you break it, he just gets it back. He just gets another one, and you'll have to keep dealing with that until you ignore it for a certain amount of time. You buy so much room for letting that come in. But now for that, they're sacrificing the Corvus. They're sacrificing the Ashe. But this Ashe Makoa matchup feels a little tough. If this Makoa manages to take space, you just get hooked out of your assert dominance. You get hooked out of your dash. It makes things a lot harder to really get away with anything.
It seems like that having this Corvus and Ashe means that Ignite Gaming, not only do they have the aggression, it can be just as worse to play into because of how much DR Ashe already has. That Corvus being able to heal that Ashe is going to keep her alive in a lot of situations where she may have ended up getting killed, especially into a draft like this. Ashe, Rom. It's very aggressive dive composition so far.
Hey,
A draft that we've seen so far on
hey,
Ice
Fawn.
Mines. Yes.
You know what
Yes.
else is aggressive?
What? Is it a
Talus.
ruckus? Oh, Talus. Okay. I was gonna say, I'm like, what else? If we're thinking about off tanks, would they really lock that in as well? But yeah, they're just full.
Wouldn't
send.
that be wild? They are. They're
right,
full
exactly,
send.
yeah.
Full send right now in Parallax. You should draft for things that don't necessarily get countered by dive. Things that are almost undivable, I guess is one way to put it, if you can manage to keep your distance and stay away from it. And I think Inari EV makes sense. Ignite Gaming, would not be the worst Sky game, I would say. I'll tell you right now, though, now that I just looked at the final pick, it's not Sky. Sad to say. This could be a decent Sky game, especially on this map into that Makoa and that Inara, but they're going to play things safe. They're going to get Cassie, but you can run big game for effectively the same thing, just a little bit.
Right.
Again, it's a little bit safer, plus you have that back line and the flank counter, I guess, onto the EV. Even if when you run that big game, it's not going to be as potent without the impulse damage boost, of course, going into her as well.
It's pretty hard to fight back against this sort of composition when you have to worry more so about defending. That's what I imagine Parallax doing a lot of the time, since Ignite are planning on full sending this. And if I am correct, is FRZ actually on the Eevee this time? Is he actually? Wow, man!
I just saw the loading screen. I was waiting.
Oh, really?
I was
Okay,
waiting for it to load up. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just about to ask. Man, oh, man,
I
this
wasn't sure
really
if Mita would be back, but yeah,
cool.
we are truly just zooming back to 2019 in
yeah.
general today. But
Wow,
EV, this isn't even the best EV map, but I'm sure we will see a clinic put on by Freeze as we tend to as we go into game here on Ice Mines game number 2 of this set. And there's actually some interesting talent choices here. We're seeing Treacherous Ground get picked up by the Inara. I'm assuming just to deal with the ROM, of course. And we're also seeing Shrapnel Victor, so that's something that we're going to see a little bit more now. After the nerfs to burst mode, some Victor players are valuing the little bit of extra utility you get from cardio, the little bit of extra utility you get from that Shrapnel to do either more damage around corners or just stay alive more against pressure.
I think this is a good map to do it on, especially.
Agreed.
There's a lot of.
Two,
I mean, you pick Shrapnel for the same reason that you would pick Tiberius, right? I mean, you have backliners that want to hold certain angles, and people that you know are going to play in choke points. Tiberius and of course Shrapnel Victor are going to make it so that they don't have as comfortable of a time. They're eating a lot of damage, whether you can see them or not. You just toss about it. You just toss it and then forget about it. Is how that goes. But it seems like FRZ wants an early engage against the Ashe from the sidelines here. Talus moves in. Thanks to the overcharge, he wants to try and be a little bit more aggressive, but look how far Rom is in the back. It doesn't seem like he may have bitten off a little bit too much, as everyone very willingly peels back to deal with him so they can get that early pick. And now Ignite, they're forced back.
Forced back, and they're going to have to run away from this constant pressure. Look at this Cripple and Nara actually running in. And Bronze, I think, smartly holding off on using that Warder's field and not really able to follow. But deep hook there forces that wormhole, the rune, excuse me, to be used from that Talus. And point control still in favor of Parallax. And they're going to walk into that Cripple.
Oh, it already seems like it's forcing them back more and more. Parallax are slowly pulling this one away from Ignite. Blinks in, blinks back out. And manages to live with 45 HP. That gourd is going to be enough to keep him alive. And now FRZ in an even better spot as before.
Okay.
Lands all the shots necessary to get rid of Cat, and even a better one in the Kubies as Parallax takes this first point on Ice Mines, and Rom's dead again. Okay. I'm not sure what Rom is. This is no disrespect to him. We all have off games, but I've seen this Rom at least 2 or 3 times in the same spot that he shouldn't have been, which is all the way in the back behind Parallax, and they peel back and deal with him every time. They aren't moving together with these off tanks.
I don't even know whose fault that is. That seems like just a calm disconnect, right? Because, I mean, Rom's making it to the back line. That's not the easiest thing in the world. Even as a Rom, just looking at what they're playing into. His team has to be able to follow up, but I think they're just getting stalled by the aggression from the rest of them, by FRZ, by this Inara, by this Makoa, just putting a shield in the way and completely stalling them out.
It seems like for right now, that it is working out for them as they use the Talus ult, the true power to get into the back. They take care of his Spexy, but Kubies is still going to get brought low and then eventually killed, as Parallax haven't really given up any control over the objective here. FRZ uses the Ice Storm in such a good manner, forces them all back. They're just tearing it up in the back line.
I'm sorry, I couldn't stop laughing at Xzeed's just floating out the door with his Entropic Breach animation, just like, I think I'll do anything else other than fight this. But Deja Vu doesn't seem to get that choice as they stay aggressive on him, and Freeze just sneaks another kill away that he wasn't even trying to get.
It seems like Parallax have wrestled it away from Ignite once again, and they've just been holding on to it. Hard to really argue about whether this is what they want, especially considering the fact that they're fighting as hard as they can, but it seems like a communication disconnect in a lot of these different fights. It just seems like everyone has their own agenda, if anything, but hopefully they can be able to fix this one out, because if FRZ continues hitting shots like that, you're definitely going to need to figure something out pretty quickly, especially with the barrage being used as well. Cataclysm goes out, breaks the half shell, and they get the kill onto Dentic. Parallax are trying to roll this one in, but Ignite are not going to take this one lying down. They're just going to keep fighting back against Parallax Gaming as Spexy finds the shots into Kubies. He moves in. He has to assert dominance. I wonder if that's why he's up here. Are they going to use it to lock him out? Do they want to lock it down this bad? Not too sure. Anyone can really touch. FRZ does have the touch available to him. Calls the overtime and links right back out thanks to the ice block. He wants to move in a good enough manner so that way he can stall for his tanks to make it back. Drops the Ice Storm. That Ashe is crippled for a little bit longer. She has to try and make some sort of way out of that. Free firing into that ROM, racking up the damage. See if they can put a stop to this push. But if that's what you had to use to stop Parallax, I think Parallax are pretty okay with that.
Yeah, a lot of late ultimates being spent there, and I think you're right about that. But we see that a lot from Brazil, actually. We see a lot of ultimates being spent this late into the game just to hold points. But Parallax, what did they spend? Ice Storm? He's already 32% to his next, and he basically used it right before the end. Pretty much him and Spexy are doing fantastic in the damage charts as well, with Freeze also being undying on this EV so far, 9-0 for him. But Kubies, someone in chat just mentioned it, Cassie 0 kills, and I didn't even look at, yeah, Cassie is definitely having a tough game so far into them, but that's just, it's trying to do big game damage. They're trying to do big game damage into the Inara and the Makoa, and they're not peeking. They're either in a half shell or they're just catching them with cripple around corners.
Right. Yeah, and this is why you have to be sort of more together. I think Rom has to sort of just not go in as much. I know that's hard to say about Rom. That's what he does, but I think
now here he goes.
Okay, well, here he goes. Because it doesn't matter at all. He moves to the back line for a better opportunity here. They already killed somebody on the way in. Franz is trying to do what he can to farm up some more ultimate charge for him, but they're effectively just ignoring him. They aren't really worried about him. They want to put pressure on the members they can see. Franz may have moved a little bit too far back, and now of course we're going to go back to deal with them. FRZ willingly taking the fight here as he has to sprint deeper into their spawn. Now it's even worse off. They're fighting a 4v5 very effectively. The hook zone's out. They bring in Talus, tries to use the Ancient Rage. The startup is not enough. Still going to keep them back and pretty much far into their spawn. Okay, Rom, you have to move past them at this point. Okay, that's what I was expecting. I'm like, you have to touch You have to be able to stall it out for a little bit longer. They'll be able to do that, but it won't be for long.
No, not long at all. Bizzo finally falls after his long attempted flank here. But we'll see what else Parallax can try to find on this push. Talus maybe gets caught actually here by Dintic. If FRC wants to follow up with Dintic, they use the Ice Storm forward instead and actually loses his perfect game so far as the Makoa spends the ult to find the Corvus.
No more 0 kills, Cassie. Hello, one kill, Cassie. This Kubi's, it has to back up off of this one. Doesn't want anything to deal with that Makoa. He found 2 already, pulls up the Rom. Rom's keep trying to gain more and more HP. Uses the Cataclysm, finds the stun, but it's still not enough to get the kill. Of course, Parallax are going to collapse on that. They've been playing very close together. And one thing I'm very, very glad to see Parallax do is they are not afraid to forfeit space, especially if it's an angle that you have to hold on Ice Mines. They'll give it up, and they'll come right back stronger than before.
It's smart. Like, you don't need to overextend yourself as a tank or even as a DPS to keep space being held as long as your team knows, right? You can give up a little bit of ground to let them come in and help you out here. And Hook looks like up top was unable to cripple the Rom, but they might follow this up with a kill. He is so low, and he is just getting beamed by a Spexy here with a nade, finishing it off.
Meanwhile, they have to find some sort of way to roll the cart in effectively. The score is 2-1. The Spexy is firing. Dread Serpent goes out, manages to get the fears away from people, and they do manage to roll this one in. They make this a 3-1 against Ignite Gaming at this point in time, and it makes it very, very effective in the long run here. I mean, that Parallax is now in the lead, 3-1.
Yeah, it's been a good game for them so far, and I'm going to apologize to chat right now. I'm actually dropping frames. Not sure what's up with that fun. Actually, quick question, since I can't mute myself to ask you this. Everything fine on your end right now?
It is lagging on my end too. I will say that. I think something is happening currently.
Okay. So, well, I hope something's happening. We are still watching a game, but my guess here is that I am getting Comcasted. Definitely very likely that I'm getting Comcasted, but hopefully people can still hear us, and we'll still be able to bring the game how we can. Maybe we'll take a pause after this to see if it'll work itself out. But Kron's trying to get aggressive already inside here, crippling Abizio and not letting him get away, but even a second CC for it, but they're not really finished finding anything right now.
Yeah, Zabizu and Ash we're playing together in Barn for the most part. They were at least able to drop the Ice Storm, but did take a Spexy. They get 2 kills of their own. The wall goes up. They're trying to see if they could stop Rom from moving anywhere. They use the Entropic Breach. They're just trying to peel as best as they can. But it might be curtains for him, if anything. It's now Parallax going to try and keep control over the objective here. It is so hard for Ignite to make it back to the point, as they've been really, really trying to fight back against the odds here. Seems like they've just been holding on like as hard as they can. Ignite Gaming are definitely trying to fight hard, but Parallax are going to be the ones that take this one in the end. A lot of the fights just didn't go quite the way they may have expected it to go.
I'm sorry, I just got my mind blown because my stream told me it was so fun. You know about OBS, 34,000 kilobytes. Apparently, we were just streaming at with the bitrate, so I guess the bitrate is fixed, but we're going at quadruple this speed here. But even that talent saw that true power at the end did not work out, right? The true power just could not end up connecting. They got in, they killed Outlander, but everyone else was far enough back because Dintic was making 8 years of space up front that they could not make it in to really make up for. We'll look at the stats and see how things ended up for them. Abizo struggling in the damage department. Kubi's, I think, was solid there, but look at a Spexy and FRZ. They literally dominated this game. 100,000 for both of them, almost 110 for a Spexy, and what was a pretty quick Ice Mines game in general.
You know, I might have a hot take here by saying that Freeze God has a great EV. I think might be one of the best EVs to exist in the Paladins Pro scene. I don't know. I mean, chat, you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but I definitely think that is something that you take away from Freeze God. You don't want to have that. You don't want to allow them, to have that in their back pocket. Don't want that to be the case at all, especially, of course, on the Victor. That shrapnel paid off very well for them, actually. 107,000 damage in the long run. Now, whether that's due to the barrages he got or due to the overall assault rifle damage that he's going to do, that's neither here nor there. Of course, shrapnel is going to play a role in that regardless, tossing out the grenade. course, doing a lot of damage in terms of the AoE. And that means that Parallax are now up 2-0 against Ignite Gaming. Hopefully, they have something to fight back with.
Yes, and I'm really quickly going to clarify for those in chat, if you were wondering. Apparently it jumped. That's probably when I was at 34,000 bitrate.
Right.
That would make a significant amount of sense. So what I think happened was I was dropping a lot of frames, and then my OBS was like, well, we got to get him out there. And,
Right.
and it just jumped straight ahead. So not sure exactly why that happened, but now that I'm at a consistent bitrate again, shouldn't be happening again. Parallax and Ignite 2-0 up for Parallax right now. If you guys didn't get to see the last mid fight, but here's what happened. Dintic ran in behind them, used Ancient Rage. They all turned to kill him. They could not do it in his half shell. Talus tried to true power to the point, got there, killed Outlander, but Inara and Victor were already passive enough where they could deal with him afterwards and gave them the cap there, finishing that cap that Outlander had been standing on the whole time, basically. But map number 3, Ignite really have to figure out something if they want to make it work, and it looks like they're going to go to something standard as I get this typed in for us. Stone Keep will be map number 3 for Ignite. I remember them performing pretty well on this map in the past. We'll see if that tends to hold true for them as we get ready to head into that. But do you expect anything do you think they're going to maybe target that EV just to get rid of it? Because I mean, FRZ, he looked like he played it yesterday. He looked like he is just not stopped. He was perfectly clean on that character.
Yeah, I think so. I think me bringing up the fact that they should ban it, I think it is way too... He is one of the best EV players in the entire league. Like back when we watched him last year in the PPO on SSG, that is not something you just want to let slide. That is not a character that you just let go, especially if you know who's on the other team. I think you ban him. Obviously, the target ban for Shaolin is Spexy. Stone Keep, a good map where Shaolin can thrive here. So I can only imagine you just have to get rid of the EV. Parallax aren't going to ban one of the pocket picks and then give you the other one. It's just, okay. Well, I guess they just go for the ROM then. They feel like that's more of a problem on the side.
They don't want to accidentally give up his ROM again.
Right.
They're like, all right, we can't play around it, so let's just get rid of it. And I don't think that was even Abizo's fault. Just to clarify, I think that was just the wall of defense that Parallax were able to put between them made it very difficult for them to actually cross that gap. Ignite Gaming, though, with the first pick here, should probably get something that can heal their team, and we'll see where they go with it. It'll be Andro. So Androxus maybe can make something happen here. That I know they've succeeded with it before, but it seems like an interesting place to prioritize it.
Yeah, and I think the verticality is what they're going for here. I mean, of course, you have Androxus being a very consistent damage dealer. The verticality he has, thinks another, oh my goodness, I don't remember the last time I've seen this. Perhaps Ignite have made a mistake. Perhaps they shouldn't have let this happen. I don't think that, I have only seen this a couple of times, and hopefully Ignite, they have a good plan, because if not, I do not think this game, I think this game may be lost. I think this game might be lost at draft phase.
It's entirely possible, because now we have FRZ, I'm assuming, Bomb King paired with Genos and Corvus, possibly. It seems like a very powerful draft that they have so far, especially with who they have supplementing it, as it's a Leon. So Leon, we know, pairs very, very well with these double pocket compositions, because, hey, the pockets also boost her other abilities, her I was going to say enlightenment, her presence, her valor, and her grace. All of that are amplified by the Genos and the Corvus together, so definitely makes sense to go that route, as Ignite are kind of just drafting a standard triple DPS comp so far, it looks like. I mean, maybe it's quad DPS for all I know, but it's really standard triple DPS, and I kind of don't love it. I don't really love the Parallax doing triple DPS effectively either, because I think this is a double tank map, but if they're matching against each other, I say the team with the double pocket should be the one to come out on top, but Parallax still have one pick left. Maybe it's just a Talus, and they end up losing this.
I personally think it might be like an Inara. I think that's like the frontliner that can lead the charge very well with this draft. It's actually gonna be the Khan. An off take makes sense too. Could be Khan, could be Ash, could be Ruckus. Right, exactly. You could play the main tank Khan to bring out Leon's shield here, and it'll help a lot against the Fernando, because Lord knows everyone else that isn't Fernando is about to have a rough time fighting against a double-pocketed Bomb King Leon with the Genos and a Corvus. My goodness, man. I hope Oh man, I just hope for the best.
It's actually a
I
Spexy
really hope
BK,
so.
by the way. Just to clarify, I just loaded into the game on my end. It is a Spexy
Okay.
Bomb King. So not FRZ, but it is FRZ on that Leon, who will definitely, I think, perform up to the standard we expect from Parallax so far, and we even have the game ready for you guys. So we'll slide into that and take a look at how they're going to play this here. Interesting to see anything here. We have chain reaction for the Bomb King, so into that Nando once they get him knocked down, his shield knocked down by that Khan. They'll be putting a lot of damage into him, but that's a kind of a ego pick, honestly, when you're playing into triple DPS, especially a double flanker triple DPS.
Yeah, I'm looking at this Eminence right now, and this is, and I would love to hear your thoughts about this, Kresnik, because we have seen,
4, 3,
we have seen Leon use another one of her talents that helps out with alacrity, that helps out with her slides, and just makes it a lot easier to fight back against some of these other targets that have that verticality like Androxus. But we're not seeing it here. The Eminence, of course, you have longer lines of sight that you have to hold on Stone Keep, but even still, we saw it being brought out on Shadow Desert yesterday. I mean, it was just such a strong pick. It was such a prominent pick for him. I don't know. Where do you feel like it holds the meta right now? We've seen it more consistently, more than once now.
I think Leon is a sleeper pick that needs to be played more. I think she can really control a game, especially in a pocket meta. She works really well with it, and there goes the first kill. Hey, on the back, on the shoulders of that Leon with some great damage. No real way to contest for Ignite, and they have to back off. They lose their solo tank, and it's going to let FRZ get on this point and cap it for free.
Yeah, it seems like they are forcing them away from any angle of sight that they have. And is correct, because bold of him to assume he was about to play the game when he decided to dash up by Banana. There's too many people that were already watching pretty much everything. It is hard for them to make it onto this point. Can't really make it onto the objective. How easily I'm like, oh my goodness, that just shredded that Cassie. It is rough. It is rough. He gets void gripped. He can't make it to the point. They get one healer, but it's like you had to deal with the other one. Now you have the Genos being able to still boost everyone's damage, and that's just all she wrote. I mean, Parallax managed to capture this first point. It's a rough one. It's a rough one overall.
The end. Just making it really hard to really get in for them, having the Bomb King and the Leon just sitting on that high ground, putting a lot of damage into anybody who wanted to peek here. Already charged up ultimate-wise are the two getting pocketed. But Deja Vu actually managed to charge his, so good play here. Maybe an Acristorm comes in, but it looks like it might be saved for another moment as they try to find an opening that Abyssal might have found up top.
Seems like for the most part, they are keeping them at bay. Of course, Leon has been having a field day with finding these angles, keeping them so pushed back that it just makes it hard for them to even peek a single sight line. It's just been looking good for them so far.
For sure, it's been, I think, good for them, but definitely struggling to find much more here as both teams stalemate kind of back and forth. Disengage actually up top. This could be a chance for them to walk up. Khan plus Bomb King pair well together, but they don't combo the ultimates quite right, even if it does end up netting them their first pick. This holding here looks like, I think Fawn might have vanished, but a pick here from Kronz. Oh, there we go. Okay.
I am back. My Discord is going crazy right now, but that's neither here nor there. They are still at least able to hold things in fireplaces. Dread Serpent gets dropped down. They do force Leon away as they use the Buck Wild. The King Bomb comes through and stops anyone from contesting. That means that Buck's ultimate is virtually nil, as he can't really, of course, push in to stop them because of the King Bomb. Doesn't want to risk his life for that, but manages to get the double stick and burst him down. Yeah, this is definitely an ego talent pick from Spexy if he feels confident enough to hit these bombs in the way that he is. Typically Royal Subjects is the go-to, but he's feeling pretty he's feeling pretty okay with this. Moves up into the high ground, wants to go for the Androxus, but of course drops right back down.
Now that I think about it, it might just be a specific Buck counter pick. Now that they have it going right, if you stick maybe 3 on the Buck, he's not going to bulk up before he takes any damage, and then he just gets insta-killed. So definitely can work there as they all end up stacking down here by fire. No real way to break through. It's just so hard without 2 tanks to do it. You need both lanes to be covered, and Kronz is going to have a difficult time to keep this moving.
Yeah, over time. is on the board now. Penny trying to find who he can burn down with this flamethrower. So he gets Void Grip. The board gets tossed out, and of course he still is holding that corner to fight back. Kubi, Zabby's do manage to get 2 kills, and that means no one else can touch on the side of Parallax Gaming. Hold it down for the team as they tie things up 1-for-1. What do you think Ignite have to do this time around? Well, I was watching, of course, watching how they were fighting that very first mid-fight. It is hard for them to peek any angle, get anything started. It's rough. Playing into a double pocket, that's not easy. How do you fight against that?
I think you have to match up the Buck into the Leon. I feel like the Buck does not trade into the Bomb King that well, and I think you have to meet this Leon with him, right? Catch him right after a dash. Maybe Cassie pokes or Andro pokes for the dash, and then you send the Buck careening in as the Wrecking Ball to finish that off. I think that's the best way to at least get an opening pick. But even if you trade for that, then play your sustain, play your Nando, use your Immortal maybe to get aggressive instead. I think they just have to catch FRZ because Spexy's going to have too many people protecting him.
It seems like Leon's going to be posted up in the back once again. They are swinging around. They're trying to see if they can pincer them, but no one else can really afford to do that on the side of Ignite Gaming. They really can't. So they opt, to back up, just not go for it at all. They use the Accursed Arm, but killed during the startup. So he's going to be able to have that refunded to him. No problem. No big deal for the most part. Freeze God wants to go in, misses the presence, but he is finding the shot through time and space, goes in the back line, but it's not going to find any sort of hit at all. They would have been eviscerated at that point if they were hit by the through time and space. Everyone's moving up by Banana though, but they have King Bomb. If he knows, he could end up using it well enough, but a beautiful Accursed Arm. Great ultimate combo. Followed by the Dread Serpent and the Accursed Arm in the back. Use the Buck Wild as well. They have a full-on team wipe. An ace for Ignite Gaming. Beautiful use of ultimates and comboing them together.
Don't know if I love the Buck Wild, but the rest of it, I'll definitely agree with you. Great combination there to follow up. But now Parallax have a few of their own to get through. Enlightenment's still available, even if it's not as impactful as it was. But don't even need it. Deja Vu feeds himself into the blender that is Parallax moving forward, and they have a King Bomb to back them up as well.
King Bomb wants to roll right on in. You hear the music as well. A little bit goofy, but you do love to hear it. Sticking them multiple times, and Buck gets killed overtime, depleting. So now Cassie is above the payload, or above the objective. It drops down to at least cause the overtime. Of course, Androxus doesn't have any more nether steps, and he's going to get Void Grip, meaning he can't escape. And that means Parallax are as good as they were last round for another point on the board for them. They have overpower as well. If they get that Fernando at the right time, that might be curtains for this round, honestly, especially since he has Immortal. It's too powerful.
And he had Immortal when that King Bomb was coming in too, and he didn't use it. So maybe that same thing happens here, but knockdown, they drop back as the overpower misses, but they don't really lose anything other than Deja Vu's life. Intimidation missed ultimate, ended up failing for them, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with peeking a very open angle like that. There were just too many people that were looking at him. Enlightenment goes out, 1,600 Kubis, gets Thanos snapped away and out of existence there, as he's going to get 50% back on the princess herself. As now Freeze God has to hold high ground and keep holding high ground on this Leon. He's doing the best they can. Zabizu drops down, but Freeze wants a piece. He drops down and gets him too, but Khan is ready. Of course, it's a princess's bodyguard. You expected Leon to get her hands that dirty as a Spexy crawls. They find a kill a piece, and they make it so that they have to use the Immortal. They force out so much just from that, but it's already gone. Oh my goodness! Deja Vu, he dropped down, but the commander's grabbing the body blocking. They use the time and space as well. They're trying to see good damage on Freeze God, but it's just too many people. They're able to peel for each other. They're able to work together very effectively, and we see it popping off in droves right now. No one can stop Parallax as they push this one in successfully.
Yeah, I have a feeling Deja Vu did not mean to do that. I'm gonna take a wild guess and say not necessarily an intentional block, but I think it ended up saving Penny for a moment longer, which they desperately needed, even if it didn't end up working out for them. But they're down an Immortal and a Dread Serpent, and that's basically their two only options to really peel for themselves. Now they're going to be lacking that. It's going to have to be, I think, a solid DPS ultimate to make work. Kronz, though, already charged up his next one, even after that whiff earlier, so they will have an overpower here. And shoutouts to Freeze God, who is running away in the damage charts right now, and that makes sense. He's got double pocket. He's Leon. he will be able to do that when he is being enabled. This level he is by Parallax here. But Ignite playing it differently. They're starting on the objective again this time, but Kronz again misses the overpower, and Ignite got to be happy for that.
Get a second time to use that, but they're going to use the King Bomb, or at least scare him well enough. He's going to roll down at the last minute, look for Buck, but not going to be able to find it. Just posing a threat just off of the King Bomb alone. You can't push in, and you can't step on the point. It was the ever-present threat that he could roll onto point at any time and kill that Fernando, that they were scared and therefore backed off. That gains Parallax some control over the point and allows them to hold this for a little bit longer. They thought Andrew was about to drop in Deja Vu. Look at that. They peel off immediately. Buck doesn't quite make it up on the high ground, but he does get Void Grip. They're looking for it. They find the damage. They find the kill. Beautiful shots as well. Penny, he's going to get that shield broken, but even if he didn't, it doesn't matter. Back next year, this can work out for him. Deja Vu is going to get killed. And yes, Dintic, he okay. He may have
put on the juke shoes
a little bit too far. He just a little bit too far, and he did have on the juke shoes. He made sure that his heelys were strapped up nice and tight, so that way he can glide around with it. Okay, Bronze. All right. I understand we all have bad games, but even still, a third overpower, that might be the most it is that I've seen that has been missed. But no, nothing to talk bad about him overall in his performance throughout this game, throughout this set. As it's been hard for them to fight back, and he just gets deleted. Two of them already said and done. FRZ popping off here, as this might be it, honestly. Zabizu goes down. Same thing for Kubies. He finds himself a delayed Quadra. The Entropic Breach on the objective here as Penny's trying to stall. They step on. Overtime is there, and overtime is done. Just like the set. Parallax Gaming take it 3-0 over Ignite.
And I think, I mean, to the surprise of nobody, but I think Ignite had a decent fight until they gave them Genos Corvus.
Right.
Once that happened, it was just a unscalable wall, I think, from that point forward, especially with them getting that Leon. I think it was a perfect combination with it, and we saw why. Freeze literally wiping the floor in that final fight. We'll take a look at the stats here and see how things looked for him. 121,000, and the second closest was 82 on Kubies on that Cassie. So definitely, I mean, doubling the damage of a Spexy. That's just what Leon can get away with on that team. I think Kronz did a decent job tanking, but definitely put a little bit more pressure on his team than he maybe needed to with those overpowers not connecting.
Yeah, 121k, obviously, like you were saying before, that is due to the fact that he had the double pocket, but he took a lot of damage. Kronz did, at least, on this point, on the objective. And for him to dance on and off a point as much as he did, that means that Parallax had a lot of free reign without really getting a punish onto him, because it was just too much to play into both Genos and Corvus on the same team. And I think this is definitely a map where you do that. And of course, that doesn't, I personally don't think that means that you can always just pick Genos and Corvus on the same team if they are open. But I definitely do say that on certain maps with certain characters, it can work out. And I think that Bomb King and Leon are definitely the two that can benefit some of the most from having a Genos and a Corvus on their team.
Yeah, I would agree completely. I think it was a great draft by Parallax to propel them to continue for their undefeated reign here. The only undefeated team actually remaining in all of the PPC. We'll take a look at the standings to confirm that. 14-0 for Parallax. Carnage right behind them at 10-4. Their spot is locked in, as is Parallax's, of course. But the seeding between In Control and Ignite, I think, is actually still up for grabs, depending on how next week goes. So definitely keep an eye on their games. And Tempest and Fatal, shout out to Tempest, by the way, for their game this week against In Control, which I want to say they won. I think it was a very close game. They managed to turn around in the end. So good looks to them for making that work against them. That was yesterday that happened. But Tempest and Fatal definitely at the bottom, but Tempest is in the middle of their own resurgence. But just to make sure we have everything covered here on the final day of week 14 of the PPC broadcast, we'll go to North America, since the finalized standings didn't really get shown before. Pickled Pepper were served their first loss of the season last week against Snappin. Snappin now holding that second seed. Sanguine and Yeezy are both down there. If you're wondering why there was no North American games this week, well, Project and Flashpoint are 2-12, and they both forfeited. Neither of them were able to field players fully for this week. So unfortunate for them, but they were able, hopefully they'll be able to play in the final week of this year of the PPC, which is going to be next week, week 15.
Yeah, and of course, be sure, guys, please, that you tune in next week because it's going to be some awesome matches next week and the week after. Tune in at 1 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern on
Nope,
Friday.
not Thursday.
Oh, right, because
Yes.
right, okay.
Thanksgiving. Yes, we're
Yeah,
not streaming on Thanksgiving.
We're not streaming, yeah, we're not streaming on Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for reminding me about that. I do remember that you did tell me that
Yes.
beforehand. Be sure that you tune in at 1 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday instead of Thursday. We're not going to be streaming on Thanksgiving, but we will be back on that Friday and that Saturday at the respective times that you've already seen us at, which is at 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. Eastern, respectively. Thank you guys so much for watching us today. Much love from me and Kresnik for you guys tuning into these community broadcasts. It means so much to us that you
Always.
come in and you watch on the weekend. We really, really appreciate it. Genuinely, we appreciate that. Thank you for watching the PPC community broadcast today. And Kresnik, if you're ready, you can close us out.